Good afternoon, folks. We're going to do a war game today based on the Charles Grant rules, the war game. It's going to be a assaulting a position. Not done a game for a while, so it'd be good to have another go at these rules. So what we're going to do is loosely based on the Bunker Hill scenario that's in the rule book. Obviously, not as many forces and a much smaller table, but it is going to be a brute force trying to take a stationary position or an entrenched position, and playing the role of the Americans. We have the guys up here. So we basically got one artillery piece and 4 line battalions. You can see that that's the part that's playing the role of the fence at Bunker Hill. And attacking them, we have 2 brigades. So we got 3 line battalions there, 2 half battalions, and 4 line battalions there. So I will be playing the role of the attacker. We kind of expect that the attacker should win this, simply because of the amount of forces that I've got at my disposal. But as Bunker Hill, it could be costly, and I will lose victory points depending on how many casualties I take. I haven't got many options for strategy. It is going to be a case of just moving forward. There might be a couple of options as we start to take the fortifications, or whether I push on my right flank first or the left flank, or both at the same time and just go for it. But we'll see what happens. So this is the table as it is, and we'll see how the game plays. Okay, so turn 1, and as with a lot of turns, first turns, not a great deal of action. I moved my 4 battalions on the left flank, if you can call it the left flank, or the left side of the battlefield. Moved them forward in line. Kept my 2 half battalions in reserve to exploit any gaps that I might create, and then started to move my right hand battalions up. I changed 2 of them into column. My plan is to maybe soften them up with this battalion here in line, so for some musket fire on them, and then go in with the two other battalions that are in column at the moment. Not quite sure. I've not fully decided what to do on the left hand side, whether just to go forward in these nice pretty red lines, a little bit like Bunker Hill, isn't it, the way they're marching up that hill, or to change maybe the ones at the rear into column to exploit any gaps that the leading battalions can create. Artillery was non-effective. We'll call them the Americans for this game. The Americans on that hill didn't get a round shot on these battalions here. They were aiming for these. Didn't get a hit. These 2, one did hit but failed to penetrate the redoubt over there. So not much on the artillery side, and as yet not quite in musketry range. So we will be very, very shortly, so we'll see what happens on the next turn. Okay, so turn 2, and when I said I was expected to win this and it was just really a matter of how many casualties, I might not win it after all. So got into musket range on the second move, and my battalions took a real hammering from the first volley from the hill. Especially this right hand battalion here, which you can see have lost their colonel plus 2 officers. Really unlucky, very unlucky. This battalion here, not as bad, just the 2. I did manage to get a hit through the redoubt there, taking out 3 casualties from my artillery. Obviously I haven't stopped to fire yet, I'm just moving forward. So I've not done my first volley. Again, on the right hand side, this column was targeted. I've left the casualties on just to show you. I don't normally leave casualties on like that. Yeah, so this right hand battalion got hit hard as well with 5 casualties, and just the one, this poor unfortunate chap here, who just happened to be hit twice. So he was very unlucky. So I really need to start moving up this hill. The tree that is there at the moment, that is basically the start of the slope. So there'll be reduced movement once I get onto that or past that. So got to weigh up my options here. Do I stop and do a volley, try and get some casualties, or do I just move forward and try and take this hill? We'll see. We'll see what I decide on the next move. At the moment, I think I'm definitely going to need my reserves over here. Might be pushing them a little bit forward quicker than I thought. So we'll see what happens on turn 3. Okay, turn 3 and more bloodshed. This time it was the unfortunate left-hand battalion on the extreme left that took the hits. Yeah, they although it wasn't their first volley from this unit here on the hill, because obviously I'm getting closer, it did just as much damage, and they lost considerable units there, considerable amount of men. No officers though, so that was the only saving grace. This unit failed its morale test at the end of the last turn, so they were stationary this move, and they can't fire either. So they're, so as you can say, disorganised and sorting themselves out. So I pushed my other battalion off to the left to get around them. Hopefully they should pass their morale test on the next turn, although having lost their colonel I might have to dispatch my my general to go and rally them. But we'll see if they can rally on this turn. On the opposite side, unfortunately these guys took a volley from the unit on the hill there, which hit them in the flank, so caused some casualties. No officers again though, so that was good. And the unit that's moving forward is definitely in charge range now. It was just short of charge range before. They only took 1 casualty, so they should hit that line on the next turn. And they've also got these guys coming up in support. So not yet going to commit my reserves. They haven't moved as yet. Still here, but we'll see. We'll see what develops on the next move on where I commit them, whether I commit them on the right or on the left. We just have to see what happens. What I do like about these rules, I mean, there's a few things obviously I like about these rules. I like the old school gaming rules, but what I particularly like is, although I enjoy black powder, and I do enjoy black powder rules, same as Hail Caesar, I find the distances massive, which does, cause issues for little tables like this. This is a small table, so when you've got units that can potentially move, well, 18 inches, isn't it, for 3 moves in black powder, it can cause, well, it's very hard to do it on a small table. I know you can reduce the sizes with the modifications and such, maybe go to a 2/3 size. But while it's sort of, yeah, I'm rambling a little bit. What I like about these rules is the movements are quite short. So we've got 6 inches in line, 4 inches if you want to fire a volley, or we've got 7.5 inches in column. Hence the reason I went into column on this side, is so that I could get that extra bit of movement to push forward and get to that wall closer. Didn't do it on this side, but we'll see what the difference is. I mean, these are taking a hammering. They are going up against obviously 2 battalions instead of 1, but they are moving very slowly, and they're going to even move even slower up this hill. So at the moment, the right hand side is looking the most, I say potential, because they haven't got a hill to go up to start off with, and they outnumber the battalion there 3 to 1. So that might be an option to exploit sooner rather than later. We'll see how this next move develops. Okay, turn 4, and you can see there that this line battalion that was at the front has taken more casualties, well below 50% now, so it will have to retire on the following move. But it does have the backup of these 2 battalions, so it hasn't done its job, as it's taken most of the hits. They've still got quite a way to go up the hill, these 2 battalions, but I think they should get there. This battalion here has been rallied. The general very nicely came along and rallied these troops, so they now have the general acting as their colonel. The Americans did take some casualties on this turn through artillery. The British artillery seems to be doing quite well, and this battalion in particular on the right hand side took quite a few casualties, mostly from artillery and from this unit here that has been firing up the hill. On the far right, the battalion did go in. I haven't done the melee yet because it seemed easier to show you what happened when they went in first. Otherwise you wouldn't see this bit. So they went in. Unfortunately, you dice one for the attack and one for the defender to see if they get a volley off before they go in. They did get a volley off, and that was the end result. But the Colonel seems to be living a charmed life, because he actually got hit twice but managed to save twice. So so far he's holding on, but he's risking it a little bit, and he's like I say, he's living a charmed life. So we'll see how he gets on when on the next bit on the melee. I don't think there's enough troops there to, well, I know there's not enough troops there really to get, or to beat that unit there that's behind the wall, but they do have the backup battalion going in as well, and obviously we could swing this battalion round if need be. So I think we're looking not too bad. So we'll see how we'll do the melee over here, and then we'll see how it develops. Maybe I can get a foothold on this right hand side. We'll see in the next move. Okay, turn 5, and I suppose we should go over to the right first. You can see there that that unit did not take the wall. They had to fall back because they were reduced to 50%. So, the unit that was behind, the battalion that was behind, has now gone in. Again, it unfortunately received a volley before it went in, but hopefully they should take that wall. I am using the rules that are in the book of particularly for Bunker Hill, that the colonial troops don't get a +1. Sorry, the British troops get a +1 for the colonial troops not having bayonets. So hopefully when it comes to melee, the British troops should perform better. They did honestly with this one here. Getting to 50% didn't help them, and they had to pull back anyway. Quite a few casualties on this line battalion here from the battalion on the hill, and again the one that was rallied by the general has taken a few casualties, mostly from canister. As you can see, there's that artillery piece there, which they unfortunately were on the receiving end of. This hill is very slow going, getting up there. I have committed the reserves. I actually committed upon the move previous, so they're on their way. But already I'm thinking maybe I should have committed them to the right, because this going up this hill is just proving very difficult. Receiving a lot of volleys, and don't seem to be making any headway. Such a slow pace going up the hill. But we'll see how it develops on the next move. Once I finish this move, when I do that melee over there, might give me some more options. But at the moment we've received a lot of casualties. I'd probably say 3 times as many as the colonial troops at the moment. So we'll see how we get on in the next move. Okay, turn 6, and the British are moving forward, suffering a lot of casualties again, getting up this hill. So the there he is, the Franco-Bavarian, standing in as an American today, can be very pleased with himself. So far he's managed to hold the British off, but it's starting to get to the real crunch now. This battalion here is well below 50%. Actually, it was the volley fire from this one down here that seemed to do it, and the artillery, which again did some good work, which is unusual because usually my artillery is quite pathetic, but today it's done well. So they're going to have to retire on this move. Over on the right we had the second round of melee that went in. Both had to take morale tests because they both suffered casualties. Both passed, but as it's the second round, both have to fall back. So that wall will be undefended. Unfortunately, I haven't got anything really to exploit it with, apart from maybe these. But whether they'll be able to get over there in time for that other, before the other unit rallies. Not sure, because I set my reserves in on the left instead of the right. I mean, there they are now, moving forward to support these guys. But starting to wish I'd sent them on the right now that there's an opportunity on the right. But well, I suppose that's down to tactics and command. That's the way it happens. Don't always put your reserves in at the right place at the right time. So we'll see whether I can push up on this side now. Now that this unit is well, basically on the next move it will go in. If I'm really lucky, maybe they won't receive a volley. Not been lucky in that respect so far. Every single time there's been a volley that's been taken place before the charge, which obviously reduces you even more. And it's been very costly for the British. This hill is proving quite difficult to take. Still a little bit confident I might be able to do it. Some heavy casualties. You can see over here this battalion failed its morale test, even though it has got the general with him. So that's pulling back, and we've got a couple of battalions at 50% that are pulling back, so which means less for the actual charge up the hill. So we'll see how we can do with our reduced battalions. They still haven't committed their reserve yet. This battalion here, I've got a feeling on the next move he's got to really make a decision where he's going to put that, because he's going to have a big gap here, and he's going to have a gap for a while over there. So he's going to have to commit them soon. Where we shall see. So here we are, turn 7, and I'm feeling a little bit happier. Yes, we have finally taken the hill. Well, part of it anyway. We've got over the barricade, so that's a good start. This battalion is going to retreat now because it failed its morale test. The French battalion that is standing in as an American battalion is a militia battalion, so it only has a morale factor of 5 instead of 6, and it did seem to make a difference. So you can see there the British flag is flying proudly, but unfortunately we did lose a couple of officers leading the charge gallantly. Where are they? Oh, sorry, there's one. And over here is the other one. And they also lost an officer as well. Guy back there. So it was a costly exercise to get up there, but they definitely proved their worth, this battalion, and they've got in and taken the redoubt. The Americans, aka Bavarians, have split their reserves, so they kept one there and sent half a battalion off to their left. As you can see there, that is the other battalion that has now left this big gap here. So that's probably a wise choice, especially after what happened here. So my reserves are still moving up, as you can see. Not quite got there yet. And over on the right, I actually I mentioned that they both had to fall back on the second round of melee, but if I look at the rules over here, if you can see that, it basically says they have to fall back unless they are the defender, in which case they can stay in place, but they class as exhausted for 2 moves. So that's what they did. Fortunately, it didn't make that much difference because they got a volley from this unit here, whose musketry has been very good this game, and they actually killed the colonel and another officer. So and they're also now below 50%, so they will be falling back on this turn. So the right flank is taken as such. I haven't got much to exploit it with at the moment. My other unit over there is 50% falling back, and this is the only unit I've got left on the right. But now things are progressing in the centre again. Things are looking better. So hopefully I can get men over that barricade, and I've only got really the half battalions to deal with. So I should have enough to deal with those, as long as I can get men funneled over this barricade before he reacts. We'll see on the next move. Okay, turn 8, and the fight for the redoubt continues. I'm getting my forces over the wall at the moment, or the redoubt. The reserve battalion of the French, Bavarian, American has now sort of come together, swung it round. His other half battalion they've swung around to obviously meet this threat. A couple of volleys each, which we did okay actually. And the American forces lost 2 officers, and with their militia rating, that's going to impact them quite badly. So we'll see at the end of this move how they do on the morale check. Myself, I think I lost another 3 guys, but no officers, so they should be okay. And I've now got my reserve battalions moving up, so they'll be in there on the next move. And obviously the left flank of the Americans is non-existent now. They're all falling back, and obviously this battalion here that failed its morale test, it'll do another morale test under this move, but see whether it rallies. Now if it doesn't rally, then that's going to fall back again, so things are looking okay. You can see then the Fusiliers are just coming up behind, so they should get over the wall as well. So really all depends on the morale check of this militia battalion here, because if this militia battalion fails, then I think that will be the end of it. So we'll do the morale checks, and we'll see what happens on the next move. Okay, so we did the morale checks at the end of turn 8, and this battalion over here that had obviously failed on the previous turn failed again, so that would have gone off the board. The militia battalion that was left, that was the reserve, did actually pass its morale test despite losing their 2 officers, but it was decided that they would rather fall back as a formed unit to cover the retreat rather than face this onslaught of all these British battalions that are now coming over the wall. They wouldn't have been able to withstand 3 battalions plus a reserve of 2 half battalions coming over. So they decided to pull back, and we will call it a day there. Heavy casualties on my side. I've got the figures here somewhere. Let's have a look. I've just been counting them up now. I had 240 figures, a total of 8 battalions going into this game, and I lost 71 officers. Sorry, no, that would be wrong, wouldn't it? 71 officers. 71 men, 5 officers, and 6 officers, 1 being a colonel. The American forces, they came into the battle with 4 battalions. Right? 1, 2, 3, yeah, 4 battalions, so 120 men. This is not including the artillery, and they lost 41 soldiers and 6 officers, and 1 of them again being a colonel. So it was costly for me, just short of twice as many men, even though I started with twice as many men in the battle. So I lost twice as many casualties to half the amount of forces that were defending. So it is definitely costly. Not quite as costly as Bunker Hill, but definitely hard work taking it. But got there in the end, and a win for me, which is a rare thing these days. So I'm happy with that. I enjoyed the gameplay, despite it being quite a stat. There wasn't much tactics involved. It was a case of pushing your men forward. A little bit of tactics is in where to put the reserves, but in the end I left the reserves far too late, and they didn't really impact anything. But yeah, I enjoyed it. It was a good game. I've said before, I do like these rules. They are old school rules, but they work well nowadays. I think so. I enjoy them. There's a lot of people out there that do enjoy them, and it's nice to get a game with these. So I'm not sure when my next battle report will be, but in the near future, hopefully.